live from the apocalypse, where you and I dwell. I am Dan-O, the curator of Free Music Empire. This week, I do three things. I watch the television show Party Down. I watched the NBA. And I listened to death albums. My co-host along this journey, much like Jared Kushner, is down for Kanye West. His name is K. Diggy. K. Diggy is with us. I am in my son's bedroom. This is not my Justice League poster behind me, nor the stickers of robots. This week my family is visiting other family. They have left me here to take care of these cats. We're very needy. And I've had the free reign of the house. Watched a lot of basketball. So we this week we are talking about death albums. We're talking about albums released right before or right after the artist's death.
Mm-hmm.
And we picked three of them. What is it? All right, yeah, the Pop Smoke album, Aim for the Moon, Shoot for the Moon, Aim for the Stars. I hate the title.
Shoot for the, what is it?
It's awful.
Shoot for the stars.
It's an awful cover. It's really. I don't know why there's a rose everywhere. There's videos, roses. What is the? What do we? The imagery for this album is mind-boggling. But I think Pop Smoke is smarter than everybody but one person who was involved in planning this. So,
shoot for the stars, aim for the moon.
What? Sure.
It's motivational.
It sounds like something your guidance counselor says to you when they're drunk. Oh
no.
But the other album is the classic 1996 conspiracy theory favorite food, Makaveli, and also Gil Scott Heron's last album. I'm new here. I'm partial to the third version of it, which is We're New Again, done by jazz. I don't know, there are no jazz superstars, but jazz composer Michaela McCraven. So what did you think of the albums?
I mean, I really enjoyed the Gil Scott Heron, the Pop Smoke. I don't think it wasn't bad. It wasn't okay. It's complicated with Pop Smoke.
It's complicated.
Let's
start with Tupac. Pop Smoke.
Yeah, and then Tupac Makaveli was, it was Tupac. It was everything I expected it would be. Actually, even more.
Yeah, man. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So, looking at it, Pop Smoke, it is different. And did you see any of the 50 Cent commentary?
No.
On YouTube? Man, 50 Cent goes in, dude.
What did he say?
In. He says that when he met Pop Smoke, he asked him what his goals were. And Pop Smoke said, I just want to take my mom to an award show.
Wow.
It's an interesting goal for a drill rapper, right? That is not what a normal drill rapper is thinking.
Oh.
He really was shooting for the stars. To me, that's what this album is. So there's a British rapper named Skepta.
Yep.
who said about Pop Smoke, he knew what he's doing is really London drill, a mix of grime and drill and the bounce of dance hall. It's a real London fusion. He was
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
trying to be about it.
Well, I never made that association, but now that you've said it, yeah, I can totally see.
Shout out to
What?
Skepta for the analysis. I didn't. Yeah, it's interesting because it's not conventional drill. It's not conventional Pop Smoke.
No, what do you mean conventional Pop Smoke?
Now, I haven't read this article yet, but Yo Phillips wrote for DJBooth.net, and he was doing this mythology thing and what rappers would be what mythological characters.
Mm-hmm.
And which one do you think Pop Smoke was?
Icarus?
No, man. No, that's probably Kanye. He's the ops. But anyway, no, Pop Smoke was Hercules.
Hercules. Wow. Okay.
And I nodded and said, yeah, the flow is like that. You know, the flow really is like Herculean. The voice,
Oh, yeah.
the delivery. It is really an incredible tool.
Yeah. Very
Um,
versatile.
50 Cent said about this album, the first two tapes versus this album. He answered when asked how Pop Smoke's debut stacks up against his first two EPs. You're gonna see what we really just lost, something big. He said to me he wanted to take his mother to an award show. I'd like to be able to do that. It was clear that he was trying to take it to a different direction.
Yeah, you can hear the ambition in this album. I mean, you could see that he was aiming to definitely expand his sound and make his sound more mainstream
And make it more durable. And that's why I think the
Yeah.
people who are all mad about it not sounding like him, or I think they are putting a lot of that on his team. And I don't think that's fair. I think it's pretty clear that he wanted some of these guests.
Absolutely.
Like Quavo has said, snitching was supposed to be for Culture 3.
Oh, wow.
So that was in the tank. Like, I think he wanted to be able to kind of be adaptable.
Yes. I mean, the versatility, I mean, it's unique because he had like such a distinctive voice, but that voice was very versatile. You could definitely see that he wasn't like a one-trick pony. This album showed it. I mean, it showed you his potential, what his potential could have been. I mean, he could pretty much go on anything and be able, like, he could rap or sing on any track and be able to adapt very easily.
You can tell the difference. You can tell the difference just in, if you listen to Meet the Woo, the first Meet the Woo,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to hear the Herculean delivery. You're going to hear him spazzing on songs, and it's going to be like, clear the way, I'm coming through. But it's not this.
Oh.
You don't make some of the songs. What was the like song I was thinking? You don't make, Enjoy Yourself, What You Know About Love. Like, what was the Yeah Yeah one? There was a Yeah. Like, targeted at female audiences, ready to rock.
I mean, you could definitely see that he was kind of looking at the 50 Cent blueprint. That's the direction that he was going in.
Yep, he was trying to see it, man.
Yeah, and I mean, if he was alive, I'm sure he would have gotten more closer to his direction than this album did. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, better cover. It would have had a better set of visuals. Yeah,
and I think, you know, the artists that appeared on it respected him so much that they just wanted to be involved in the project. And so they were, I mean, they had so many artists because I'm guessing the material, there wasn't enough pure material for an album. So they needed artists to bring in artists to kind of stretch the material a little bit. I did notice that.
I really think he wanted a lot of some of these artists, man. Like he said he wanted an international artist like Karol G on his album. He really had some of this stuff in mind. There's a 50 Cent story I really like that he told on one of the interviews. Was he was in the studio with the dude and he's talking to him and the guy's just on his phone. He's like, these fucking kids on their fucking phones. And he leans over to look at who the fuck are you texting while I'm talking to you? And he leans over it, and Pop Smoke's been taking notes on everything he said.
Wow.
Right into the phone. And that's when 50 was like, whoa, this dude is like me.
Yeah.
And he really, you know, kind of fell in love with that. It's tough. This is the ripped away example, right, of the three. There's three kinds of Death albums to me. This is the ripped away one, where there's no indication. You're at the height of their powers. It's very Big L. Big L was like just this throat-clearing shadow boxer of an elite MC. And just got shot, mistaken for being his cousin or something, like some guy. Random.
Right.
And this was likewise. This was a home invasion. And they just killed him. It sucks. And he was there's an example. The original thing is from Greek philosophy, but this dude Isaiah Berlin recontextualized it. It's the story of the hedgehog and the fox. Have you heard about this?
No.
All right, man. The hedgehog and the fox is about perspective. The original quote, I'm trying to find this. Okay. The fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing. That was the original Greek poet, Archilochus. So, talking about the hedgehog lives its life with one vantage point, but it focuses on that one vantage point. It becomes a master of that singular perspective. So there's lots of examples of this in rap music, right? Who are masters of this one vantage point.
Yeah.
My example with this is always Beanie Siegel.
Okay.
Right? You know what a Beanie Siegel song is like.
Right.
It's not bad. He's very good. But you know exactly what it's going to be.
Right.
And it's not by accident, because Beanie Siegel thinks rap music should be like this. And that's the hedgehog. And Pop Smoke wanted to be the fox. The Fox has many vantage points, has many views. And Isaiah Berlin was talking about this in terms of pluralism, in terms of for him, the hedgehogs were the philosophers that were descendants of mathematicians. They thought there were variables in life that you could take and analyze, and you could come to a conclusion. And that conclusion would give you the right way to live, the truth. Here's the truth. And Berlin said, no, this is pluralism. This is a lot of things happening at once. But you can still analyze them. They still interact, but they're different.
Right.
And it's not one valid, one invalid. So I think Pop Smoke was trying to be pluralist with his music, was trying to expand it, create different kinds of Pop Smoke songs. I don't know if he got there, but yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say no, and I don't think he got there because I mean, first of all, I think we got to remember he's only 20, so he didn't have enough life experience to deliver what he wanted to.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I think when I think about like the like how 50 was probably when his album came out, he was probably maybe like 27. How old? He was late 20s, right?
Something like that, yeah.
And you know those first couple of years of your 20s, and then you know the first half of your mid 20s. Though they're like you know you go through a lot of life experiences that will allow you to write better and come up with more perspectives. And I just think he was just too young. He was too young to have made a good album.
That's an interesting idea. The it is, yeah. He definitely had a lot of living to do.
Yeah.
There's the first paragraph of the Pitchfork review for this album was really good. It says, nearly every New York neighborhood has a character like Pop Smoke. Flashy, cocky, trash talking while hitting a dance. All jokes until suddenly he's deadly serious. Born Bashar Jackson in Canarsie, Brooklyn, Pop Smoke was raised among blocks so rich with Caribbean culture that his breakout music video was partially filmed at Peppa's, a local Jamaican jerk chicken spot. During the year or so his career lasted, he was the centerpiece of the borough's drill movement, a subgenre born and popularized in Chicago and adopted and personalized by New York. By the time he was shot and killed at 20, Pop wasn't just a rapper, he was the voice of Brooklyn drill.
Yeah.
And what was the... There you go. Yeah, there's the last paragraph saying that the album aims to attempt to cement his legacy by expanding his world. Executive produced by his would-be mentor 50 Cent. It's big, polished, versatile, feature-packed, loaded with radio and playlist-friendly records. It's the type of album that will boost streams, but it runs counter to what made Pop Smoke appealing in the first place. When Welcome to the Party and Dior first began to play on the radio, it was like the airwaves had been hacked.
Yeah.
There was no way this Canarsie rapper with the hulking voice, chanting on nightmarish UK drill beats, was supposed to be playing in between Drake and DaBaby, right? Yet there he was. So, and that's, I guess, an interesting point of, does this album lose what we were all interested in seeing him do?
I mean, I do think the guest features were I don't want to say they were distracting, but I think with a debut album, typically from the gate, you want to be able to establish your voice. And I don't think that this album accomplished that. And that's not, I think, you know, obviously if he had more time, he would have developed it a little more. It was just it was underdeveloped because of, you know, the circumstances of him passing away.
He passed away on
I thought
he passed away on February 19th, 2020, just to give a date there. The album was released July 3rd.
So what is that? February to March, April, May, June, July.
So like almost 5 months, yeah.
Almost 5 months, yeah. And yeah, I mean, it just felt very underdeveloped to me. And I mean, they gave it a good try.
Right.
You know, I commend the people that the artists that who showed up on the album to you know, honor his passing and his legacy. But there wasn't enough of, I didn't get a feel for who Pop Smoke was.
Yeah, I there was a couple sentences in my write-up to you where I said that drill, by its monotonous nature, is underground.
Mm-hmm.
This album is not, which means Pop Smoke had intentions to redefine it the way The Clash redefined punk.
Right.
The Clash redefined punk by incorporating other sounds into it, international sounds, right? Ska, all this, you know, there's a whole listing of it. So, and they made different kinds of songs, which punks thought wasn't very punk.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, like I said, going from a hedgehog to a fox. That's what he wanted to do.
Yeah, and there just wasn't enough of, you know, his sound. There wasn't enough of his DNA in the songs, is how I'd put it.
There's a Gil Scott Heron documentary I watched on YouTube, and it's the kind of documentary they could never make about Kanye West. Let me tell you that. Can I tell you that? I don't want
Come
on. But it was based. You'll know when I say it starts with this guy had chart toppers and an incredible career, touched so many important people. This is not about that. This is a documentary completely populated with the people who knew him and how much they cherished their relationships with him and how brilliant he was for them. And everyone in the documentary is like his assistant or his bandmate or his kid or his photographer, the manager of the label. They're all just like, you know, engineers, and they're all just talking about how amazing he was.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a moment where he's talking to one person in his band, and he goes over to his piano, and he says, I've seen people who could play from here all the way to there, all the way to the other side of the piano, but they couldn't make me feel anything.
Mm.
And he said, this is about feel.
Yeah.
He never called himself like a soul person or a soul singer. He called himself a bluesologist.
That's interesting.
And it was about knowing the feelings, knowing the colors, knowing how to make people feel what he was saying. And a little of that is missing from this album, from the Pop Smoke.
Agreed.
That, like, he's technically fantastic. Like, his flow is marvelous. The beats are top notch. The features are top notch. But you're right. There is a sense that he's playing the piano and I'm not feeling it.
Right.
and that he would have gotten there. I really think he would have gotten there after
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are you gonna do?
I mean, he was the next big hip hop superstar.
Agreed.
In a way, like, you know, I like, who is this kid? Roddy Rich, that's his name, right? Or
Oakland, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of young rappers that I like, but none of them stood out like he did.
Well, there's a lot of weird young rappers calling themselves the King of New York. Have you seen that online fight there?
No.
Tekashi and a bunch of other yokels calling themselves names. But Pop was really supposed to be that dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was supposed to be the commercial guy.
Yep.
Because he was doing what he had already figured out, the mechanism that Griselda hasn't yet, of how to make this lyrical and radio friendly.
Mm-hmm.
He had already figured that part out. So, man, I don't know what he would have done. Two albums from now, like, jeez, it would have been something. So that was probably, of the three, maybe the weakest, would you say?
Yeah, without a doubt. Not maybe, it was.
It was a lot of potential. There's a Len Bias kind of thing there.
Yeah.
But what should we do next? Let's do Pac next. Makaveli.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Re-listening to this, I am very old, and this album is stitched into me. Stitched into me. And the schizophrenia that he expresses in this album is stitched into me. The way he is angry is like the definition of rappers being angry in my mind.
But the thing is, it's like an anger, and a rage, but it's mixed with a sense of like intelligence as well. It's not like it's like a fire, but it's like a controlled fire.
And I don't think people got that at the time, dude. That's why I wanted to send you that Baltimore Sun review of Makaveli. The title of it is Tupac's Violent Name Game as Makaveli, an unprincely Tupac Shakur, took violence to a new level on his last album. That's the title. The part of it that stuck out to me as really wrong is this is, as one line in the rap puts it, extreme venom. But the entire point of the Makaveli project, apparently, was to create a persona so hard and amoral that it would make all the other fake gangster rappers seem like softies. So even though the slow thumping Hail Mary finds Tupac insisting, I ain't no killer, he's quick to add, but don't push me.
No. It's like Jay-Z says, he has a line, do you fools listen to rap music or do you just skim through it? And
people were scared of this music.
Yeah.
They were scared of it. It was not even about paying enough attention. They were fucking terrified of this music. I was there. I mean, my favorite story, can I tell you, was, I've got a lot of them, but we'll go back the album before this for that story. This guy is doing like we're in like a what is it? The giving speeches class there, oral presentation.
Public speaking.
Yeah, public speaking. And this is in high school public speaking class. This guy's doing a report on the dastardly dangers of rap music.
Oh gosh.
Because I'm in Maine, this is what it is, man.
No.
And he stands up there, he brings the boombox up, and he's just like, I'm about to play something Block your ears, tuck your kids in, all that.
Yep.
Presses play and it's hit them up. And the faces were so shocked. And I was singing every fucking word, dude, loud as fuck, just like, yeah. I was so fucking death row at that point, like stupid. And I just sang every word, man. And I sang it loud and I sang it hard. Because to me, I guess I didn't really care if he was really angry or not. By the way, you see this?
Yeah, man.
My man. So I just I'm into this music for the emotions, for the feel.
The feeling, right?
For the feel, like Gil said, man, I'm here to feel it with you, whether it's love, whether it's hate. I want to feel it. I want to
Oh
feel what you're talking about.
yeah.
You can do that by painting pictures. Like
Yeah.
as an example, Currency can paint a picture of him sitting on a fancy car eating a fast melting ice cream. I'll believe the shit out of that shit. I feel like I'm there. And
Yeah.
that's a feeling, right? We're watching a sunset on a fancy car. He's eating ice cream. That's a feeling. He can give that to me. He's spinning. Pac could give you all these feelings.
Yeah. Yep.
And where I disagree with that review is he gives you a lot of feelings.
Yeah. And that's what I mean, the skim through, like some of the words like I usually describe this were schizo. I did use schizo. And then fluctuations. Wild, like just wild fluctuations of emotion. And the fact, us as a listener, because he's so good at painting pictures, we're just going along with him with this ride, like these wild fluctuations of emotions. Like he's going through it. We're experiencing the same thing with him as well, as a listener.
And to me, this is different than All Eyes on Me. There's a criticism of it. Let me get to the criticism. The criticism here is this New York Times review kind of sums it up. But I know people who are just regular people who agree with this. Like the Dogfather, the Don Illuminati suffers from Dr. Dre's exodus from death row. Dre was responsible for the masterly production, which is not true, on both Mr. Shakur's previous album and Snoop Dogg's debut. At times, songs were almost sparse and unfinished. Elsewhere, the sounds of screeching cars, chanting Buddhist monks, gunfire, and backup singers get to be too much, too brittle, and too poorly arranged. But for every lackluster song like Toss It Up, a forced slow jam with an ill advised insult about Dr. Dre's sexuality, there is a standout like Hail Mary, a slow, ominous, stuttering rap, slightly indebted to Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Mm.
So there's a criticism there of the production's whack. The reason that exists is because the production on All Eyes on Me is perfect.
Right.
It's perfect. It's like you have to think of it like if you have a real career, like one of those like top careers, you don't have your classic album. You have like three or four, and they're different, right?
Right.
They're different titles. So let me give you what I think happens here. Prince is usually the example I give, right?
Mm-hmm.
Prince's best album, if you know Prince albums, is the album you feel like is the most Prince, right?
Okay.
For me, that's Dirty Mind. For a lot of other people, he has his classic in terms of held the world in the palm of his hand, right? That's Purple Rain for
Right.
Prince. That's All Eyes on Me for Pac, right? But he also has the technical achievement. Sign of the Times is the Prince technical achievement, and And this is Pac's. This is Pac's. Pac's songwriting is so fucking good on this.
Yeah. And apparently, from what I was doing research, and apparently he did this whole album in 7 days.
I believe it. I mean, there was a Mike Tyson. I had quotes about Tupac. I wanted to find some Tyson on this. He said his energy's off the wall. Guys don't do that no more. When I see entertainers, it's just not that energy. Some guys sell hundreds of millions of records, but they don't get that stuff. He had that stuff.
Yeah.
He's just a different person. You know, when you see some people in your life, they're like us, but they're not like us. They're different.
Yeah.
So,
And
go ahead.
And I've read some of these songs, like he wrote one of the songs, I forgot which one specifically. They say he wrote it in 15 minutes. Like he heard the beat, wrote it in 15 minutes, wrote his verses in 15 minutes. And these aren't like, you know, a lot of the songs nowadays are, that's another thing I found interesting. Like if you look at the songs nowadays, they're pretty short, maybe 2 minutes, 2 minutes and 30 seconds at most. Like most of these songs have 2 or 3 verses on them. Full verses from Pac. And I mean how effortlessly he could crank out a song is just incredible.
Yeah, completely different moods. I call this the vibe album.
Mm-hmm.
Every song is like clearly a vibe, right?
Yeah.
And so I'll give you a personal kind of example and the effect of this album. And then I'll go into the technical aspects of what I think that vibe consists of.
Okay.
When I was in the Army, 99, this had just come out a few years. We were just still listening to it. By the time I got in the Army and was in boot camp, everyone was listening to this shit. Everyone. And I remember being in holding, waiting to get assigned. In a bunk with another person in the bunk over there, person over my head, person over his head, 4 people, all with the headphones in, all listening to Hail Mary and singing it out loud in unison.
Mm.
And it's not like it accidentally happened. We did it, but we did it because we loved that fucking song. There was something different about it. We used to listen to Against All Odds, lift the fucking volume all the way, listen for the weird little fucking clues in it. And there are clues.
Yeah. Very, very eerie, actually. I mean,
I don't know if you heard that. Haitian Jack sued him.
Yeah.
After he died.
Mm-hmm.
He had said that song had like ruined his life. And he won. So, but it's like, it was crazy. It was everything. And so the technical parts of that, it's the vibe album. It's the album that really kind of catches the conspiracy people. When you hear people talk about like Tupac lives in Cuba, it's this album.
Yeah.
It's made them think that.
Agreed.
So what goes into that from a technical aspect that makes it that way? So this album was released November 5th, 1996, 2 months after Tupac's murder. The way he layered his angry rants behind his own rapping was something we had never heard before. We used to turn it up. We wanted to sound like the album sounds like a crisis in a very meaningful one. No one had been doing that. No one had taken their song and background vocal just an angry rant. just you ranting behind you. There's two of them in White Man's World. And it like grows and grows to the point where it takes over the song. Like him rapping fades out and it just becomes him being like, oh, oh. So it's that from a technical standpoint was totally different.
Right.
Second thing, this is the chanting. This is the chanting that Kendrick got.
Okay. Yeah.
When Kendrick does the chanting, that's Tupac shit. And it's not a knock. I mean, that's just what it is.
Right.
Tupac was incorporating multiple voices. And he wasn't trying to like nail the singing or anything. But multiple voices repeating these things. Yeah.
I mean, it adds like a psychological tension throughout the album, like because you know that the rants in the background. You know what I mean? Like I think you could interpret it could be interpreted as so Tupac is rapping. So who is this person in the back? Or well, we know it's Tupac, but what is this ranting supposed to? Who is it supposed to represent? You know what I mean? Like who is ranting?
Well, the craziest one to me, the one I always think of on this, he says, you know, all these old rappers looking flabby and sick, trying to play a hate on my shit, eat a fat dick. But you know, he said, looks like Larry Holmes, flabby, sick, trying to play a hate on my shit, eat a fat dick. And then you could, if you isolate it and listen to the ranting background, he says, "Have you seen De La Soul?" And it's like, fuck, dude. Just buries these things in like the fucking cliff notes. You know, it's insane. And the other thing about the chanting, there's poetry in the choruses.
Mm-hmm.
Even in a weirdo song like Just Like Daddy. Just Like Daddy's a weird idea.
Yeah.
I don't want to be just like anyone's daddy, except my son, who I'm his daddy. But the chorus is gorgeous. Come with me and in time we'll grow. Dedicate slow jams on the radio. Know you're happy. I can feel your passion. Looking out for you just like daddy. Come on. Sunshine turns to rain. Baby, I can take away your pain if you trust me. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
My voice isn't beautiful, but the fucking words were really like there was something there, man. Dedicating slow jams on the. I mean, it's beautiful. Most people's hook is just like fart sounds now. It's unbelievable. These hooks are so fucking developed.
Yeah.
Even stuff like you know, in the life we live as thugs, everybody fucking with us so much. So can't you see it's hard to be a man riding with my guns in hand? There's a whole explanation in there.
Yeah.
That's what the song is. And I had to bring in White Man's World. You know, who knows what tomorrow brings. Born black in this white man's world, in this world where everyone's blind, in this white man's world, and where to go no matter how far I'll find in this white man's world to let you know that you're not alone. I mean, it's
yeah.
He figured out how to take the poetry and make it the hook.
Yeah. That's the other. I mean, White Man's World was definitely. That's the word I have right described next to it. It's very poetic. Very poetic.
And I think that is like, if you pressed me for a summation, I would definitely say the Vibe album, the chants, the choruses, the credible strength of the choruses. But I would also say it has some of the most, maybe three of the most extreme emotional Tupac songs in terms of the feel
Mm-hmm.
that Gil Scott Heron talks about.
Mm-hmm.
There are three songs on this that I feel very vividly every time.
Okay.
And they're different emotions. Well, maybe four. Maybe four. Uh, Against All Odds is like your friend snapping at your party, right? You're a party and your friend, and he's just like, fuck Bob and fuck Linda. I know what you did. And you're just like holding it back, you know? You can feel it.
Yeah.
Like, shit he says about Nas is unfucking believable. No one's ever said any shit like that about
You better
Nas.
give him a whole read. Yeah. Yeah.
The shit Jay said about Nas is not that bad compared to this. Even the condom on the baby seat. So that's one. But To Live and Die in LA is so joyous, man. It's one of the problems with that Baltimore Sun review. It's fucking joyous.
Yeah, I mean the way it's joyous, but there's like an undertone of sadness as well.
The anger is still there, right?
The anger still, yes.
At the end, isn't the like a clip comes in where they're talking about Dr. Dre leaving or whatever the fuck? I think so, and he goes off on it, whatever. But yeah, no. To Live and Die in LA is such a anthem, lighters
Yeah.
up anthem. It's so fucking beautiful.
I mean, and that goes back to the imagery as well, like the imagery that he uses and the picture that he paints of LA. Like even if you've never been to LA, you can listen to that song and get a general sense of the feeling of LA.
So yeah, the the other one, I mean, obviously, White Man's World is a devastating thing. It's a song that everybody should have to listen to before they talk about Tupac.
Agreed, 100%.
If you're going to talk to me about Tupac, you need to have heard White Man's World.
Yeah.
Because he's talking about black women and what black women go through. He's talking about structural racism and economic inequality. I mean, it's all there.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was phenomenal because we've talked in the past about, rapping from a micro level and a macro level. You know what I mean? Like micro is, you're the J. Cole rapping about, folding laundry.
Folding laundry.
Yeah. And then macro level would be, we'll go with Wale on his last album, talking about the whole picture. Yeah. And what I found striking about, White Man's World was that it was both. Like he could zoom in and then zoom out and then zoom back in. So he could talk about his life personally and then talk about the structures surrounding his life and then go back to talking about his life and his family and his relationship with his family members. And it all sounded like so natural.
And you go from something like that to, and this really is one of my favorite songs on Makaveli. Crazy is such a fucking beautiful song. I love it. It's one of those songs, I think it's as valuable as White Man's World because it's such a vibe, but it is so explicitly about that frustration of the world that he is talking about on White Man's World.
Mm-hmm.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
The anger he has to Biggie, to Bad Boy, to the industry, uh, to the way the country's run, it's all connected. But he loves the people. He loves his people. He loves the people out there struggling. And that's always mixed in his head. And I think that badass feature is slept on. Badass is great. A great artist, West Coast artist. And I think that feature is up there with like, man, like AZ on Life's a Bitch. Like it's great. I wouldn't put anyone else in the world on that song but him. That feature is brilliant.
Wow.
But I mean, Makaveli was the album because I was in the army and I was able to meet all kinds of different people, and they all repped it. People from Florida, people from Michigan, people from fucking everywhere. Maybe not New York, but Funkmaster Flex is still stepping on these records, whatever. But that was when I was like, oh shit, man, Pac may outlast Biggie in the sense that he had that ability to connect. Like you were talking about with multiple levels on the white man's world, he's reaching out to black women and hearing them, what they go through. He's pulling it back to what he's doing. And then he's bringing it over here and talking to the, thug people that he cares deeply about, saying, look, we're killing each other here. Yeah. So he's pulling all these different people together,
making the connections,
talking to them all at once.
Yep.
And so ahead of it, man. He's the fox for real.
Yeah.
So I think that's my take on it. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's a real valuable listen.
I did. I mean, like you said, I really appreciate what you said about feeling, and it reminds me, like, art doesn't need to be factual. Like, I'm sure maybe Pac, he was exaggerated some things that he said about fellow rappers. Well, he did. But that's not the point. The point is the feeling. And this album, we were along for the emotional ride. And I mean, it was like a roller coaster. You go up and down. Some moments are thrilling, and then some moments are just like you just want to get off the ride. But you get on the ride, you finish it.
Yeah, no, it's and I think my last point on it would just be that when we're talking about like the schizophrenic anger that runs through this whole album, it resembles modern life in a way.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
He never stops being angry, but that doesn't mean he doesn't love where he lives, love the people he's with, love his gun on Me and My Girlfriend.
Right. That song. I did about Me and My Girlfriend. I do want to say I thought it was hilarious that Jay-Z sampled that. Like he sampled a song off the album that was dissing him. You know what I mean? That's
I mean, I think it's kind of low-key the weakest song on the album because it telegraphs itself a little bit, but it's that schizophrenia resembles real life in a way that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like why wouldn't you still be angry? Why would you just lose that emotion for the next song?
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
And there's room for many emotions. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing that I love about Tupac. You can be angry, but yet still want some at the same time, and be sad at the same time. People like there's room. There's plenty of room for all of those emotions.
Totally. So the I'm new again. I'm new here. We're new again. The combination here. First released on February 8th, 2010. Gil Scott Heron died May 27th, 2011. Gil Scott Heron is a poet known for "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised," also being the last voice anyone heard on Kanye West's best album.
Mm.
He was an incredible musician, great at R&B, and author as well as a poet. On a talent and impact level, he is not comparable to Kanye or James Brown, but James Baldwin. If
Baldwin,
you
yeah.
if you only hear this album, you will begin to understand.
Yeah.
And this really is the album that kind of sent me into this death album idea. So we talked about Tupac's album is Crisis. You can hear the crisis in the album. Oftentimes, musicians die in a crisis. The crisis can be a depression that turns into suicide. It can be an assassination that they saw coming, as in Tupac's deal. It can be a drug overdose, but it is a crisis. Gil Scott Heron represents the third type, which is slipping away.
Mm-hmm.
So the Slipping Away album is like, you don't have much time left. This is your last deal. And you're making your kind of closing statements.
Good way to put it.
So, crisis. Let me see if I had a definition here for that. Okay. Okay. Slipping away, the artist is sick or old and losing vitality in a way that can lead to nostalgia or anger or any number of emotions. So, if you were to ask me, because there's a lot of old people in my generation who will say, what don't you like about hip hop nowadays? And they kind of want me to say stuff like, these kids in their tight jeans, or the auto-tune makes everybody sound the same, right? You want me to get into these kind of narratives. What I'd like to do next time is eye-to-eye contact and just say, one thing I would change about hip-hop is I would love for people to live longer.
Mm.
When Kobe died, one of the things Shaq said through tears was, this wasn't supposed to happen like this.
Yeah.
In the NBA, all of my heroes are in the stands. Oscar Robertson's watching the game. Bill Russell's watching the game, right? They all get to wave to the fans and be there until they're gone. Dr. J.
Yeah.
Hip-hop is full of those people dead. Way too early. I would love to have heard Pop Smoke's Slipping Away album. As he was old and sick, but wanted to leave a lasting artistic statement. I would have loved to have heard, I would love to hear 50 Cent's Slipping Away album when that happens, right? I want people to have a long life, gain perspective, and be able to speak that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Yes.
This album is a great example to me of the value of that, the value of the Slipping Away album, of the perspective of someone who's seen so much and knows they're losing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my deal. What did you think about it?
I mean, I really enjoyed it. Of the 3 albums that we listened to, this one was probably my favorite. this felt the most humane to me. I mean, and one of the aspects of the Slipping Away album, it felt incredibly reflective to me. You know, this was someone who wanted to take like their last artistic statement and really reflect on their life. And I think, you know, what I realized is I think what he was trying to do, and I thought this is just my interpretation of it. We always find out how people die. But I think what he was trying to do was go a little bit deeper and understand why he died. Like, because, you know, to give context, like he passed away from HIV.
Right.
So he knew, I believe at the time of recording, he knew that he was infected with HIV.
Yes.
So he knew how he was going to die. But the album, to me, now he's trying to express, this is why. This is what led to, this is why I died.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, and Chuck D told the New Yorker, you can go into Ginsberg and the Beat Poets and Dylan, but Gil Scott Heron is the manifestation of the modern world.
Yeah.
He and the Last Poets set the stage for everyone else. He gets a lot of credit for being like the prototype of rap. He never liked that. He never liked accolades, really. But he also wasn't into the materialism that hip hop was about.
Yeah.
Richard Russell, who's the guy who recorded this, he's runs XL Records, wrote in his tribute, he had a fierce intelligence and a way with words which was untouchable, an incredible sense of humor and a gentleness and humanity that was unique to him.
Yeah.
Gil shunned all the trappings of fame and success. He could have had all those things, but he was greater than that. He seemed wholly uninterested in money. He goes on to say, to my knowledge, he never accepted an award. He always wanted everyone else to receive credit for their work. He's the only artist I've ever worked with who requested that the studio engineer's photo be given equal prominence to his own on his website. His talent was immense. He was a master lyricist, singer, orator, and keyboard player. His spirit was immense. He channeled something that people derived huge benefit from.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I mean, you can hear his influence. I mean, you can hear how he's influenced, particularly Kanye, because there were a couple samples off of this that Kanye used, off of this album that Kanye has used before. And then you look at Drake. I mean, Drake pretty much straight ripped "I'll Take Care of You," which I was shocked because I always thought that was an original. And this is my naivety. You know, I always thought that was an original song off of Take Care, but it was not.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, and literally, Take Care came out a year after this, which is we won't go into that. We always dive into
You see everything. What are you gonna do? There's a 1990 collection of poems that he published called Now and Then. In the intro to that, he wrote, there was music in certain poems of mine with complete progression and repeating hooks, which made them more like songs than just recitations with percussion.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good way to say it.
I mean, and how efficient some of these, because some of these songs are very short, but they feel longer because of how efficient he is with his words.
And the skits are just so marvelous. They're so free.
Yeah.
Just him talking and him just very funny, very deep, very poignant, all kind of in one 53-second thing.
Hmm.
And having listened to a lot of rap, I'm used to really shitty skits where like the dude is pretending to be a mobster or something. Um, just a great, great release from that. He released 13 albums of social commentary between 1970 and 1982. Was one of the first musical guests on Saturday Night Live at Richard Pryor's insistence,
Wow.
and the first artist signed to Arista Records.
Wow.
He had a pair of sadly prophetic R&B hits with his anti-substance abuse song "The Bottle" and "Angel Dust," and continued his agit pop politics with songs against nuclear power, "We Almost Lost Detroit," and former U.S. President Ronald Reagan, B-Movie and Rerun. That's from a Global Mail piece by Josh Ostroff. Every song that he had was about something and was for people.
Yeah.
And his biggest hits, "We Almost Lost Detroit," they're all songs with an important message trying to directly help the world. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I say I put him with kind of Baldwin, not, you know, Kanye or whatever. But um, what songs stood out for you?
So the songs that really stood out for me, so let me write down my list. So I'm New Here. New York is Killing Me. And then, I mean, particularly the skits. I did like Running, The Crutch, I've Been Me, and On Coming from Broken Homes.
Ooh.
I mean, that On Coming from Broken Homes was, I mean, I'm talking, I think the album Closer was just phenomenal.
It was, I mean, when because at that point he goes, you can't say that I'm from a broken home unless the families of firefighters who've gone away are from broken homes, unless the families of sailors who are gone are from broken homes. Like, we weren't broken.
Right.
And it's just so incredible because his emotional intelligence is so high.
Yeah.
That he can come up with comparisons that you never even thought of before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't you thinking about this like you're thinking of that? It's like, shit. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Running is a real poetic high point to me.
Absolutely.
Just a little from like, as this starts, the first words are, "Because I always feel like running, not away because there is no such place. Because if there was, I would have found it by now.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to run, easier than staying and finding out you're the only one who didn't run."
Whew.
He knew how to pause and extend out words. Unbelievable.
I mean, that comes from poet. I mean, as you know, as a poet, you have to have a understanding of spacing. There's such an emphasis on spacing, maybe more so than words in some regards.
I mean, not running for cover because if I knew where cover was, I would stay there and never have to run for it. He just knew how to take a concept and cut it into a million pieces and glue it, playfully back together in a totally different shape. And it was just incredible to watch. I think the Michaela McCraven version is far superior, uh, partially because I think it matches. I know it matches his style of album better.
Yeah, the tone.
If you like, so full disclosure, Gil Scott Heron has made my second favorite album of all time. It's called Pieces of a Man. Uh, it is incredible, but it's not his only classic. Winter in America is unbelievable as well. His 70s stuff is incredible. A mixture of the jazz and the spoken word and just the soulfulness of it. So he was born with that stuff, so it makes sense to have jazz compositions over these. And these are intelligently done. I think the original is like cute. It's industrial. It's weird sounding, but it's not the most him album.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the two versions?
Yeah, I thought the jazz version was more, I think it matched his tone, and it was a little bit, this is going to sound negative, but I don't mean it negative. It was a little bit less distracting than the original.
Yes.
So it allowed his words to be at the forefront.
Yes, I think what you get, like, there's the synergy, the music and the orator. There's a better synergy there.
Yes, yeah.
Because the distraction really comes with Richard Russell's version feels like an album that wants to be relevant.
Right.
And McCraven's feels like an album that wants to be listened to a million times.
Yeah. And I mean, the McCraven, when did the McCraven came out like a couple years after?
Yeah.
So he had time to, sit with the album. And I mean, he benefited from being able to sit with the album for a couple years and reflect on it and, match up the tone a little bit better.
And this is not taking nothing away from Richard Russell. We wouldn't have the fucking thing without Richard Russell.
Right.
Right. Gil Scott Heron gave an interview. They asked him about the album, and he said, "I did it. It was Richard's thing. He wanted to do an album. I said, sure, whatever. It was his thing."
Right.
Like, and I was like, really? Like, as deep as you get on this fucking thing?
Yeah.
Damn. But Me and the Devil Blues, I'll Take Care of You, incredible. And his voice is very haunting and very engaging.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's great. And I just kind of kept listening to it, and you just gain a lot of perspective from his thoughts, his parting thoughts about the world.
Yeah.
And about kindness. And I think I would just love to hear that more from. I wish I had heard that from Big Pun.
And I mean, one of the lyrics that really stood out for me was it's "Your Soul and Mine." He had a lyric. He ends the song, "Only promise me a battle for your soul and mine." And I mean, I thought that's a why. I mean, it was just so profound to me to think like we can't control the outcome of the war or whatnot. All we can do is promise the battle.
Right.
And in this, he was referring to, like, the whole song, he was referring to vultures, which is open to many interpretations. But we can't. I think what he was looking at his life and saying, I can't. The vultures are coming.
Right.
But I did my best to battle them.
he's smart. He's smart enough to know he is now the old guy talking to the main character, right?
Yeah.
He's the old like sensei giving the main character the information to become the hero of the story. So the whole album is feels like that. Like he's talking to you and helping
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I, yeah, I never even realized that. That's a good point. That's a great point.
And so I think it's incredibly valuable, and I'm always listening to the Death albums to just hear where people are coming from.
Hmm.
Um, and the at very end of this Gil Scott Heron documentary had a really beautiful piece of a Langston Hughes poem. And I remember thinking, yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm.
That's the crew he hangs with.
Yeah.
If you're looking at like strata, you're not going to be like Gil Scott Heron or Sam Cooke. Gil Scott Heron or Stevie Wonder. It doesn't make sense.
No.
It's going to be Gil Scott Heron, you know, James Baldwin, Langston Hughes. And those guys are not, to a lot of people, they're not as important as someone like Michael Jackson.
No.
To me, they are infinitely more important. Just I
I
wouldn't
mean,
have I wouldn't have really liked poetry if not for Langston Hughes.
right. And Gil Scott is the connection between poetry, as we typically know, and hip hop. I mean, you can, as I said, you can hear his influence in hip hop.
Right.
Particularly, I mean, he was sampled on Common's album. No, it's not Common. It was on Kanye's album multiple
Yes.
times.
Who will survive in America?
Yeah, Who Will Survive? And then what's off Late Registration? What's the album? I'm on my way home. On my way home, the song. He's
Okay.
got like an interlude with Common off of Late Registration where he samples this as well. So, if you're influencing arguably one of the most important hip hop artists of our times, then yeah, I mean you're a big deal.
Jared Kushner's favorite rapper. Um, so I'm gonna be nice to Kanye. One of the episodes, one of them. I'll be very nice. But but yeah, no, I liked all the albums, but you're right. I think Gil just knows it. He knows how to talk to it. There was like the woman at the bar thing. You remember that? He says, I met a woman at a bar.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I'm new here. I'm new here.
And yes, and he says, what is it like? I'm hard to know, but I'm impossible to forget.
Forget. Yeah. And she said, "You have a big ego." Yeah.
It's he was fly as fuck and like really smart.
But I mean, but it's like if you can get to the point where you can make a slipping away album, that's the difference between the three albums. Like Pac, Pac was what, like 25, 26 when he passed away. Pop Smoke was 20.
Yep.
There was no way that they were going to be able to give you the same perspective that Gil Scott Heron. I'm not. He must have been in his 50s, 60s.
I mean, it had to be more than that. Let me.
Right. I'm saying, yeah, at minimum 50s, 60s. So you got to think he had at least 20 years on both of them.
Yeah, Gil Scott Heron was born in 1949 and died in 2011.
Okay, yeah. So more, yeah. You know what I mean? And the other two, they got ripped away from us before they could give us that, perspective.
Yeah. I mean, and he had survived everything, not just fame, but serious drug abuse, HIV, like the whole thing of like learning from your elders, which I super believe in. And that doesn't mean like you fucking pull up and just like agree with whatever the fuck they say. It means you listen, you hear
Mhm.
their perspective, and you add that to what you know about history, and it
Mm.
helps inform you, right? There was a party full of like Booth Bay Harbor party full of a bunch of people I didn't know. They're all much older than me, much older than me. And I said, I'm gonna play a fun game. I'm gonna walk up to everybody at this party and ask them who they voted for in the 1972 election for president. I'm fascinated with the 1972 election for president. George McGovern versus Nixon. Everybody there said they voted for Nixon. And I was able to ask follow-ups and say, like, do you regret that? No.
Mm.
And they told me why. And it was incredible to walk through it with them and have them explain what they knew of Nixon at that time.
Right.
The perception of strength, the perception of knowledge about foreign policy, the things they believed he was. Some of them he was, some of them he wasn't.
Mm.
Um, it was interesting. And I learned a lot from that. You learn from your elders. You don't just, take in what they say, but you take what they say, you put that within your framework. Death albums help us do that.
Yeah.
They help us do that. And I want more Slipping Away albums of old veterans with great fucking stories who can help like younger people learn how to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. I want less people to get murdered.
Yep. Or die from overdose.
Yep.
Or
Yep.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd like less of it. That's my hot take of the day. Recommendation corner.
Mm.
I'm gonna go with the because listening to a lot of this stuff and a lot of it, I mean, Pop Smoke, 19 songs, and then there's a deluxe edition with 42 more songs, and I gotta listen to all the songs because I'm a fucking nerd. I gotta have something in my life that isn't this stuff. Okay?
Okay. No. I see the mask.
So it's the Jayhawks XOXO. The Jayhawks are like an old country indie band from the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And they were kind of at the intersection of alt country. So it is country, but it sounds like a little like the Beatles or a little like indie rock. A little like George Harrison's countryish stuff.
Mm-hmm.
My wife said like the Traveling Wilburys for those in the 80s. But yeah, it's really good, really solidly done. It's not it like got like a 7.1 on Pitchfork. They're like, this is good. But it's one of those albums built to re-listen to. You can just throw it on.
What's the name of the album one more time?
XOXO.
XOXO. Okay.
The Jayhawks.
Okay.
I really dig it. Really dig it. It's really different. Yeah. Watch Party Down. Good show. Do you have anything to add? Do you want to speak directly to Kanye West, who's now working for the
No.
Donald?
Come on. Come on, man.
Hey,
It's a hard. It's complicated right now. It's very complicated.
it is. It is. You know, everybody's mental health is valuable, and
Yes.
I'd like everybody to get back to where they want to be.
Yes.
Uh,
Absolutely.
yep, yep. So, good times. Thank you for hanging in there, people.